Minister, you're very welcome to the channel this morning. Today I'm looking for an update on the work and the actions of the Transport Working Group under the National Disability Inclusion Strategy. Firstly, I would like to ask how this group is working, how you are bringing all the relevant departments and stakeholders together in order to make real changes, making disability proofing of the transport policies the default rather than the afterthought. I want to congratulate you on your absolute and complete bias towards equitable policies for fighting for people with disabilities. And I am determined, as you are, Minister, to do absolutely everything we can do to address those challenges and to break down all barriers to independent living and equal participation in society. Minister, you are very clearly aware that inequitable access to transport for thousands of people across the country with disabilities, and you know the detrimental effect that this has on those individuals. The lack of independence, isolation, the inability to take part in community activities, education, employment, go out and socialise with your friends and family. And it makes me so furious to think that because I'm able-bodied, I have an automatic easier pass at life. And it makes me really upset, and we spoke about this, Minister, how hard it is and how upset it makes us that people are barred from basically doing normal things that we take for granted. And Fianna Fáil have always been working to create that fairer and equal society, and I look forward to hearing your update, Minister, as this working group has the tired and exhausted hopes of thousands of individuals and families and communities rested in its work. Secondly, I was very happy to see on the 26th of last month that you attended the working group session to examine the accessible transport for people with disabilities, including the priority review of the disabled drivers and disabled passenger scheme. And as you have highlighted, there is significant and immediate issues that, with the disabled drivers and passenger scheme that needs to be a huge focus and be remedied without haste. The lack of proper scheme, as you know, is causing unnecessary hurt, physical and mental pain, including and financial pain to many families. You also highlighted the problems with the primary medical certificate, as many of the members of this House and the lower House have as well, where an applicant must be permanently or severely disabled to satisfy at least one of the 6 medical criteria in order to obtain primary medical certificate. Along with this, the mobility allowance and motorised transport grant, it needs to be reformed as well, Minister, and also they're very important aspects of our transport policy in this country, and to allow people to participate in full participation in society. But as you well know, I would like to know the steps towards making the disability proofing of all transport projects, whether that be the buses, the trains, the footpaths, the bus stops, and how your committee will take a review or take a role in the review of how we actually make that joined up thinking, make all departments look at what's best, and how we allow people, our friends and our family who happen to have a disability, make them equal members of our society, not equal but equitable members of our society. So Gora Maigat.
Thank you, Chair. And I want to thank the Senator for raising this matter today, and it's an issue that I know the Senator is continuously working on and looking to progress, so it's great to have the opportunity today to provide the House with an update. The Transport Working Group was established in 2020 to support the Work Action 104 of the National Disability Inclusion Strategy, the whole of government strategy, which is tasked with tackling a wide variety of issues across society. For context, Action 104 of the NDIS commits us to leading a review of transport support encompassing all government-funded transport and mobility schemes for people with disabilities, to enhance the options for transport to work or employment supports for people with disabilities, and we will develop proposals for development of a coordinated plan for such provisions. This plan will have regard to making the most efficient use of available transport resources. The Transport Working Group was paused to prioritise initial responses to the pandemic, while the work of the main NDIS steering group continued. I made a commitment to reconvene the working group, and it met on the 26th of January last, and I chaired that meeting. Following engagement last summer between the Minister for Finance, Minister Paschal Donoghue, and Minister for Children, Equality, Disability Integration and Youth, Minister O'Gorman, it was decided to use existing Transport Working Group to progress a review of the disabled drivers and the disabled passenger scheme. That scheme is designed by the Department of Finance, and Minister Donoghue has already committed to reviewing that scheme. The group's membership is made up of relevant government department and state agencies who have a role in the provision of transport for people with disability, with a particular focus on transport to enable access to employment. Members include officials from both of my departments in Health and Equality, along with the National Disability Authority, the Department of Finance, the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform, Revenue, the Department of Social Protection, the Department of Transport with the National Transport Authority, and the County and City Management Association is also representative. So I think, to put in context, I've left no one out. I've brought everybody back into the fold, because it has to be a whole of government cross-departmental working group to ensure that we actually get delivery for persons with a disability. And it's not just an urban-rural issue, it's all about accessibility and inclusion and in participation. And while I referenced work there, I also referenced the education. But you, in your contribution, talked about the social outlet. That is equally as important as the access to work or the access to education. Everybody has a right to participate. So I am pleased to say that there is an involvement from all stakeholders on the group. Representatives from the Disability Stakeholder Group, the Irish Wheelchair Association, the Disabled Drivers Association of Ireland were also in attendance. And as the House knows, consultation with stakeholders is a key element in the implementation of the UNCRPD, and I'm looking forward to hearing their views and inputs as the work of the group develops and continues. And this group will be meeting every 3 months. It's not that it's meeting and had a talking shop. It's actually based on actions, and everybody knows their actions within it. At January's meeting, the department representative presented on the transport support scheme that they are responsible for, and we heard views and concerns from the various stakeholders. Members have agreed an initial work programme to include a stock take of the current and indeed previous transport schemes in operation. So what I've also asked us to do is what worked well in the past, what currently works well, rule nothing in and put everything on the table. And it is clear that a variety of measures and support exists across government, and we must make sure action is coordinated across the system and address the real needs of people with disabilities. The ongoing working group will be coordinated by my officials, who will also draft terms of references for the discussion for the next meeting.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Minister. It's really refreshing to see and hear the work that is going on and the positive actions that you're taking. And it's refreshing as well to hear that that nothing about us without us. That you're actually having people at the table who know what they're talking about, who this is their lived experience, and they know the barriers because they face them day in and day out. The report for the Department of Social Protection, and it's something that I've come up on a few things, and that I'd like to add would be our view of the free travel. And there is a barrier on that, on how different disabilities are classed, and it's means tested or it's disability tested, and depending. So, like, for example, for someone who has epilepsy, they should be able to a path for access to free travel. People like that, a more flexible route and a pathway to free travel to assist people live independently and free, and access to education and work, and really important things. So,
Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Absolutely, Senator. I suppose that's the wonderful thing about this working group. It is actually going to be an opportunity, as I said in my previous contribution, as what worked well in the past, what resources were removed from people with disability that gave them that independent access to participation. We all know from our own offices in relation to the primary medical cert, I think the courts have told us as well, that how limited it is, and I have to compliment and thank Minister Donoghue for he's willing to participate and send his officials to the conversation, which means that we're prepared to have that conversation now. We know technology has moved on in relation to actually adaptations within the car, but if you're blind you still can't drive, and at the same time people that are blind are completely and utterly not included in that whole assessment criteria. So it's understanding what inclusion is. It's understanding what people's rights are, and it's enshrining that within that cross-government, cross-department approach, which I'm delighted that all ministers, all senior ministers, have allowed their officials to participate in. There's not one department that shouldn't be there missing. Thank you.
Thank you.